We believe that peace is at hand. We believe that an agreement is within sight.
That is the late, great legend Henry Kissinger, although some people think he's not so great. Another legend joins us right now who I believe knew Henry Kissinger and knows everybody, especially President Trump. Roger Stone, the political icon, New York Times bestselling author, and anchor, host of the Stone Zone every weeknight at 8 o'clock here on WABC and Sundays at 3. Welcome back, Roger. How are you? What'd you think of Henry Kissinger?
He was a very difficult guy. You know, one of the things that President Nixon told me was that he didn't destroy the tapes, the famous Watergate tapes, because he needed them as protection. He said that after I'm dead, Henry Kissinger will attempt to take credit for all of my strategic objectives. Just remember, I was the architect. He was just the implementer. I think that sums it up.
That's so interesting. He kept him around. Why did he keep him around? Because, you know, and by the way, I want to talk about peace in Iran. That's why I'm thinking about him. I think it's actually, we're closer than it may seem. Why did Nixon keep him around?
I think he was brilliant. There was no question about that. He was an astute negotiator, but he was, look, as you know, they kind of reorganized the entire national security apparatus so that Richard Nixon could actually steer his own foreign policy. Why? Well, there were elements his own government didn't want to end the war in Vietnam. There were elements of his government that didn't want a strategic arms limitation agreement with the Soviets. There were elements of his government that didn't want to open the door to China, then a dirt-poor, backwards agrarian society where most people didn't have indoor plumbing or electricity. Those who say, oh, Nixon is responsible for the challenge that China poses us today don't understand history. It isn't until China gets most favored trading status from Bill Clinton that they become the economic and military powerhouse that they are today. So Nixon used Kissinger very effectively. I think as long as Nixon was president, Kissinger was essentially under control. It's only after Nixon's death, or really after Gerald Ford became president, that I think Henry Kissinger gets out of control. And as you know, he ends his life essentially as a lobbyist for the Communist Chinese.
Wow. You know, those elements that did not want those things like SALT, like China relations, we also call that the deep state. And they probably, I think you believe, had a big role in Watergate. And in framing President Trump. That's a whole other discussion, but do you go with that?
There's no question about that, and there's proof of it. Declassified documents that journalists like James Rosen have written extensively about demonstrate that the CIA knew in advance about the Watergate break-in. They infiltrated the Watergate burglar team. 4 of the 8 burglars still on the active payroll of the CIA, still reporting to their handlers there. Richard Nixon was taken down for the simple reason that he wanted peace. When they elected him, they thought he would be an unreconstructed Cold Warrior. Instead, he wanted to end the war in Vietnam. He wanted a more peaceful world. That's why he had to go. You see, peace is not profitable. War is profitable.
It's so
the war
amazing.
Machine.
Wow. And some of those pressures are, and same institutions applying, you know, trying to control President Trump. They don't like anything about him. They don't like, and they will throw over democracy to stop him. It's still happening. There's still a coup underway, in my opinion. You saw the president recently, I believe. Just tell us something that we might not be seeing, when we see President Trump on television. I mean, I think, but what you see is what you get with President Trump, but is there anything else going on that might surprise us?
Actually, it's kind of just the opposite. If you read many in the mainstream media, they would tell you that Trump, he's slipping, he's infirm, he's not well. Some go so far. I think it was J.B. Pritzker this week who said that he had dementia. I've known Donald Trump for 50 years. 50 years. By the way, he hates it when I say that because he says it makes both of us sound old. He is the same person I knew that I met in 1979. He is just as sharp, just as funny, just as self-deprecating, just as entertaining, just as measured, just as easygoing in some ways as he's always been. But you don't want to get on his wrong side. What he says what he means, and he means what he says. And I think the Iranians are finding that out right now.
By the way, just one more thing on that. You get on his wrong side, you might be in trouble, but you don't have to stay on his wrong side. And, for all the talk of, for all of the conspicuous piousness in certain politicians, Democrat and Republican alike, these people are officially practicing Christians or Jews, and especially the Christians, forgiveness is part of the equation. And he is the only president and only person I know who so thoroughly forgives people and can be friends with enemies. I don't think I'm imagining that. That's real. And I think Marco Rubio is a prime example. I mean, the things that they said about each other, and President Trump now has one of his greatest allies, and I think he's a true friend. I mean, hey, who knows? But does that make sense?
No, I think it makes perfect sense. Look, the hardest thing about being a Christian is forgiveness, particularly if you're like me, Sicilian. But the Bible doesn't tell us to forget. It tells us to forgive. God knows I've had many trespass against me, including the late Robert Mueller. Have I forgiven him? Yes. Have I forgotten the brutality, what they did to me and my family? No, I haven't. This is absolutely true of Donald Trump. He does have a forgiving nature. Rubio is a guy who viciously attacked him. Rubio is a guy who signed the Senate Intelligence Committee report claiming that there was Russian collusion. That document is a total fugazi, by the way. The president has put that all behind him, and right now he's using Marco Rubio extremely effectively to carry out not Rubio's foreign policy, but Donald Trump's foreign policy.
It is amazing. And how do you think that, look, I can't tell what's going on right now. I'm tempted to call him, you know what I mean? I know reporters do, but I don't want to bother him, although I did hear from him not too long ago. Do you think this war is almost over?
Look, I think he is the consummate deal maker. He's the consummate negotiator, the art of the deal here. Notice when he said, we're in conversations with the Iranians, the mainstream media immediately embraced a claim out of Iran that wasn't true. In other words, they would trust the mullahs before they trust the president of the United States. Turns out Trump was right. He does have meaningful back-channel conversations going on with the Iranians, who, despite their initial demands, I think recognize that he has the ability to wipe them off the face of the earth and destroy their infrastructure, including their energy production infrastructure, setting them back decades, if not more. So he's holding the cards, and he's basically already given them the stick. Now the question is whether they will take the carrot. I don't think they want more of what happened. Let's remember, we killed their supreme leader and 40 of his henchmen. Boom, gone. And we can do it again if we need to. So I think he's in the driver's seat, but I don't think he wants world war. I don't think he wants to destroy the country forever. I think he wants peace, and I agree with you. I think we're closer than people realize.
By the way, as you're describing all that, I'm reminded, CENTCOM puts out these videos of targets being bombed. And, sometimes they all look the same. But now I suddenly realize that the last several days, the targets seem like decrepit kind of hulls, like junk, like a lone truck in the middle of a field. I mean, this is not operational stuff. I'm actually thinking, I saw another thing, a plane that clearly to me couldn't even fly. I mean, in our own way, I think we might have lightened up on the bombing. And if you think back, we haven't seen any people being strafed or anything like that, and or large. I mean, granted, we only get what we get, but I think I'm onto something there.
No, I think you are. The president himself said a couple of days ago, we're running out of targets to hit. And it is also true that the attacks by drone and missile by the Iranians on their Arab neighbors have really dissipated enormously. They're down by about 80%. In the long term, they have no ability to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. We have virtually destroyed their Navy, which was not much to begin with. And the president will have his way there. That's why I think they're going to move very quickly to a peace deal, because their utter and complete destruction is the alternative.
Roger Stone, besides you and President Trump and me and the other people on your list, who is somebody who is dressing very, very well these days? It could be anybody, Democrat, Republican, somebody who's really got the style. Roger has a great best dress list every year. It's hilarious. It's informative. It's spot on. Who is dressing really well? Not that people do that much anymore, right? Everyone's sloppy. But who catches your eye?
The Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, embodies the very best of kind of Ivy League style, traditional Ivy League style. He's always got a tasty necktie on. He's extremely well dressed. Now, I'm kind of cheating a little bit because, you know, I have my own line of suits out at RogerStoneSuits.com, and he's bought a couple of them. But he was well dressed before he ever met me. And he continues to look great. And since he's out there in the media a lot as a spokesman, it is important because people get an impression based on the way you're clad, the way you are fitted out. I think he's a man of enormous style.
RogerStoneSuits.com. Folks, you really should check it out. And of course, Roger, I think the first time I became aware of you, Roger, was in the 1980s, early 80s. And not only you were on Crossfire a lot, but also in GQ a lot. And this website of yours is Spot. Oh, man, this is great, great, great stuff. I am curious. One more cultural question, then I want to bring it back to Trump, and then I'll let you go. Men are dressing like hobos these days. I'm looking out right now. I mean, I can walk 10 blocks in Midtown Manhattan and not see one guy wearing a tie. I wonder if that is making us, I don't know, weird in some way, less professional, less attention to detail. Do you see any negative cultural impact or like even something, a professional impact by people dressing down?
There's no question about it. I think that it is the sign of the end of Western civilization. But here's the good news, and I speak a lot on campuses. I speak a lot across the country. The number of young men who approach me and say, "Look, I don't make a lot of money, but I want to be well dressed. I want to be professionally dressed. How can I do that?" I've written a very long piece about it that I posted online. About how you can be well dressed, you don't have to spend a fortune. So I think the trend actually among younger men is moving in the right direction. More younger men do want to be well dressed. That's a good sign for the country.
One more thing, and I need to know this because I'm doing something on it tonight. Walter Lippmann, was Nixon a fan or a foe?
Foe. He saw Lippmann as part of the elitist Eastern establishment. Lipton only kind of grudgingly accepted Nixon's presidency. But I think it was Nixon who said, the press is the enemy, the press is the enemy, the professors are the enemy, the press is an enemy. Write it on a blackboard 100 times and never forget it. He was exactly right.
Well, Roger, it's a privilege to talk to you yet again. We'll catch you at 8 o'clock right here. And folks, you can go to, let me just see, I just had... RogerStoneSuits.com, right?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
And it takes you also to Taylor on Tap. It's great stone, the Roger Stone collection. Thank you, Roger.
Great to be with you, Greg. Thank you.
You bet. To be continued.